Pretoria and speak to Dirk Kotze, who is a political scientist, you are, Dirk, at the University of South Africa. Thank you so much for joining us. How uneasy is this alliance, Dirk?
No, it's not going to be so uneasy. It's the second time that we have a government of national unity, so there is already some experience. The first one is in 1994 as part of the transition. This time it is following on quite a number of coalitions that were already established at the metropolitan level, at the local government level, and now also at the provincial level. So there is a history in South Africa of coalition governments, but not yet at the national level in the last number of years. So there is, given the fact that what we've seen in terms of the election results, there was the anticipation that the ANC is not going to have maintained its absolute majority. And therefore, there was, in a sense, a sort of a psychological preparation for where we are now.
So you don't have any doubt, do you, that after 3 decades, the ANC may have lost some ability in terms of the art of compromise?
No, as I said, we have seen that already at local government level, and the metropolitan, the big metros, Johannesburg, Pretoria, the Cape Town, they have lost in the meantime also. So there is more diversity, although it looks maybe from the outside as if the ANC was the absolute dominant party. In reality, much more diversity emerged over the past at least 8 years, since 2016.
What do you think the reaction of the majority black population in South Africa will be in terms of the Democratic Alliance being the main, let's say, secondary partner of the coalition? Because when you read a lot of foreign media, Dirk, what you hear is the white-led Democratic Alliance.
Which is obviously incorrect. There is, for example, 3 of the ministers of the DA in this new government are black persons. The same applies to the deputy ministers. So although the top leader, the president, the federal leader of it is a white person, and some other persons have been, over time, it has actually become the most diverse party of all parties in South Africa. And although it is, in terms of its history, it comes from a party that was predominantly white. And that is part of the transformation that I think is going to take place in general with respect to this government of national unity, where there was the view that the ANC was predominantly black, and therefore it excluded some of the other groups in South Africa. Now this government is certainly going to be much more inclusive, with also some Indians and some what we call here colored persons that are represented in the cabinet.
If we presume that the coalition will be successful in terms of working together, where do you see potential pitfalls in terms of their biggest disagreements about the most pressing national issues?
Well, the economy is something which has, like in many countries in the world, there's a whole spectrum, an ideological spectrum of views from quite left to relatively conservative. And conservative, I mean, a sort of a very strong free market system. And the ANC is a party which calls itself a social democratic party. The DA calls itself a market democratic party, a social market democratic party. So there is a whole spectrum, but on some issues, and it's especially not about black economic empowerment per se, but rather what type of policy must be applied. And the ANC's policy has been criticized by black persons and white persons. So it is going to be a major challenge of how to craft a new type of policy which will have the support of a wider spectrum. So that is one component. Employment equity, as we call it here, is another one which is, they are very strong pro, and those that were critical of that. And then there's the issue about privatization of state-owned enterprises. We had quite a problem with electricity over a long period now. And there is a process of bringing in the private sector quite extensively in the generation of electricity. And more the left side are very critical of that they call it a form of privatization. So those are some of the matters that will I think will receive some serious attention and serious debate also. But in general, I would say that there is a relatively core consensus that has developed over time. So it's not as if we are extremely polarized when it comes to these matters. Yes, there are parties on the polls, but they are not the big parties, the most influential parties.
Dirk Kotze, thank you very much indeed, Dirk.
Thank you very much.